Now let's talk about SEC.gov in more detail. Okay, and we're going to use LinkedIn as an example because this is our case study in this course. So there's a number of different filings that companies have to file with SEC.gov. Okay, in fact, every company that's publicly traded has to submit files on a regular basis to SEC.gov so that you and I have the same access to information for free that all the large hedge funds and mutual funds do. So there's a bunch of different reports. Let me kick it off with the 10Q. This is a quarterly report. And I'll show you an example in a couple slides of this. Companies have to file this quarterly. And then there's an annual report called a 10K. 10Q is quarterly, 10K is annual, okay? And these are just lengthy reports that will tell you everything you need to know about a company, right? The finance stuff, the qualitative stuff, the management team, the risks. There's lots of lawyers in this country, which is why all the risks are disclosed. It's not a bad thing. Okay, and then an 8K is basically a very important press release that has material information that might move the stock. Right? They'll file press releases like this directly on SEC.gov called 8Ks. And then you have an S1 document, which is one of my favorite ones. And this is basically an IPO prospectus. And what that means is this. When a company goes public, investment bankers write a lengthy document that will tell you everything you need to know about the company. So you can make an informed investment decision as to whether or not to invest. Okay, and all this information is free. And then there's a bunch of other filings called the 3, 4, 5, and 13D. And this basically tells you who owns the shares or which executives at the company might have been selling shares or buying shares. Okay. All right. Let's now go to SEC.gov and I will show you how to navigate documents for LinkedIn. This is your one-stop shop for all information you need to know about financials on the company you're analyzing. Okay. So click here for company filings. And then here, I like to always enter in the ticker. It's faster. LNKD for LinkedIn. And there's just a wealth of information here. And this is sorted by date. Okay. And an 8K, as I mentioned earlier, means a material or important press release. This is the quarterly report called the 10Q. And this is an awesome one called the 10K, right? And before we do any of this, let me do a search on the S1. So when a company goes public, by law, they have to file what's called an S1, okay? And LinkedIn went public, I think it was during the summer of 2011. So a couple of months before they go public, they usually file the S1. So let's take a look. And let's click here. And the S1 is amazing because it basically tells you everything you need to know about a company before you consider investing. And there's so many lawyers in the US, which makes sure that every risk is listed in this document, which is a good thing for investors, of course. Okay. So this is what an IPO filing prospectus looks like. And so Morgan Stanley was the leader, okay, on this IPO. Okay. That's called top left. Top right, or the second in lead on this IPO is JP Morgan. And these are the other firms that were involved. So usually you get a pretty cool visual understanding of what the business is in the first couple slides here for an S1, and then you jump right into the text, right? And you can read about the risk factors, the use of proceeds from the IPO, what would they do with all that cash, right? You can learn all about the management team, the business model, etc. It's just an incredible document, right? Legal issues as well, and all the financial stuff you need to know, executive compensation, all that good stuff. But let me go back here. Let's just take a look at the most recent filing for the annual report, which is the 10K. 10-K go. Okay, cool. So since the company's only been public since 2011, it doesn't have that many annual reports filed. The most recent one was filed in February of 2016. Let's take a look. Okay, let's open it up here. And this document is amazing. I mean, you've got everything you need to know about the company listed here. This is a great way for you to get up to speed on a company. You can read all about the business, the risk factors, everything you need to know, right? And of course, lots of financial stuff. All right, so they always kick it off with what is their business, right? They are the world's largest professional network, over 400 million subscribers, yada, yada, all that good stuff. And here's where you go to find out more about the competition, right? So they mentioned that Facebook is a competitor, Google, to a lesser extent, Microsoft and Twitter. I don't really think that LinkedIn has any credible competition. And I can't think of another technology company out there that doesn't have any competition, literally. I mean, Google obviously is dominant in search, but some people still use Yahoo. I don't know who they are, but they do. And some people use Bing, whatever, from Microsoft. But LinkedIn really doesn't have much competition. It's incredible. Here they talk about seasonality of the business, which means that some quarters are better than others. And then we get into risk factors here. And one of the risks highlighted is security, right? There's web attacks all the time. Here's another risk, which is mobile. I find that sometimes the mobile apps I've used in the past with LinkedIn weren't that robust, although it is getting a lot better now. And let's go back to the table of contents. Okay, so we looked into the business, learned a little bit about the risks. I always recommend reading the management discussion and analysis, okay, of the financial condition of the company, right? And you can read through this if you want, but here's where they disclose more information on how each region is doing. And recall that was also in the earnings press release when we went to investor relations, okay? And there's a lot of great data in here that's also included in the earnings press releases, but this has much more additional details. And here we have revenue by product. And here's where you can go to read more about the financial statements. But we covered a lot of this in the investor relations section in this course. But this is actually a good resource if you can't get historical data going back many years on some companies, right? So sometimes they only provide a couple of years of data on the investor relations website, but you can always go to sec.gov and look back as far as you can. And here's where we can read more about the management team, right? And they even actually disclose the salaries. I don't know why they do that, but anyway, it's there. And that is a 10K. And there's just a wealth of additional information on sec.gov. If you have any questions about different filings, please let me know.